Welcome to Study Session 11, Liberal Education. Introduction. In this study session, we will attempt to describe what liberal education means and various efforts made in Africa to plant a liberal education tradition. We will also highlight and explain in details the earliest forms of liberal education and its contribution to development. Learning outcomes. When you have studied this session, you should be able to describe what liberal education means, identify and discuss the contributions of liberal education to development. What is liberal education? Here, we will peruse some scholars' view of point on what liberal education means. According to Harrison 1954, liberal education was advocated in the 19th century by thinkers such as John Henry Newman, Thomas Huxley, and F.D. Maurice. Sir Wilfred Griffin Eddy defined liberal education as being education for its own sake and personal enrichment, with the teaching of values. It has been described as a philosophy of education that empowers individuals with broad knowledge and transferable skills, and a stronger sense of values, ethics, and civic engagement, characterized by challenging encounters with important issues and more a way of studying than a specific course or field of study. According to Julius Nyerere, 1979, to liberate means to set free. Nwalimu further discussed the essence of education, which he said could liberate both the mind and the body of man. It also has to make him more of a human being because he is in a positive, life-enhancing relationship with himself, his neighbor, and his environment. Education should therefore be a matter of attitudes and skills. The form of education does not only encourage the mere learning of skills in formal setting, but includes creativity such as painting, drawing, drumming, and similar arts. With these features, it is distinctly different from remedial education, which is tailored towards the acquisition of vocation or certificates, but do not provide individuals with the opportunities to learn and think for themselves. It could even be referred to as continuing or lifelong education, as youth and adults are expected to be participants of a well-designed liberal education program. This view is included in the National Policy on Education of Nigeria. The objective of adult and non-formal education should attain aesthetic, cultural, and civic education for public enlightenment. We shall also see that a form of continuing education for workers, liberal education, can assume the position of in-service training, whereby the workers attend various non-certificate-oriented organized workshops to improve their skills. The 1948 pamphlet on education was vital because of its emphasis on respect for facts, a critical attitude towards the source of information, and readiness to suspend judgment until the evidence of the conflict of theories has been examined. This section emphasized the value of cultivating skepticism, as a good citizenship will be the one who examines critically the program offered to him by the government and others and imbibe only after careful thought. Liberal education can even be related to the tradition of the Workers' Education Association theory that knowledge is power, as workers under this study could improve their ability to understand and influence policies of those in power, and a vital step towards securing power. The earliest forms of liberal education. We shall try and examine briefly the efforts of colonial government in the promotion of liberal education before we discuss the earliest forms of liberal education in Africa. The colonial government was interested in approving with reservations, the establishment of liberal education. While the government had development interest in liberal education because of its popular emergence in British by the middle of World War II, liberal education was also boosted by the colonialists, as they believed that the Workers' Education Association in Britain has helped workers to read letter and understand the implications of current social and political changes, with the hope that a similar organization would help Nigerians to appreciate rapid changes in their own country and to help in eradicating the problems of urbanization, population movement, and tribal institutions. We would also examine the emergence of political parties in 1940 and negotiation of institutional conferences that would finally lead to independence of Nigeria. Furthermore, Major Brown also advocated engaging Nigerian workers in liberal education methods on sanitation to enlighten and train them for responsible citizenship. He supported this with this statement: "A literate worker who has lost faith in the approval of the anger of spirit of his forebears, who has renounced his tribal loyalties and his claim to a share in the family or clan land, and ready help of his fellows in the time of need, has no motive for self-control, becomes a danger to the state." Back to the earliest forms of liberal education in Sierra Leone, there were weekly meetings, and there were conferences for a further discussion of issues relevant to the development of the society. For example, one was held in December 1887, lasting for 2 days. The participants included teachers and school administrators. Listened to the lecture of P.A. Bockersteth on the history of our elementary schools, Reverend S.T. Peacock on the social master, past and present, M. Wilson on the education ordinance and the rules, how worked by the inspectors. The association's conference gave teachers the opportunity to exchange views on issues of common concern. In Tanzania, Mwalimu opined that, through liberal education, Tanzanians will reject poverty and disease and ignorance in the same way as it rejects slavery. The university evening classes was also established in 1942 to promote liberal education. The university evening classes seriously resembled British liberal education centres, which took its model after the London Polytechnic Institutes, which were both vocational and non-vocational centres. The university extramural classes took after the above, organizing classes in Latin, French, English, biology, mathematics, and so on, and weekly public lectures on world and current affairs, with the aim of furthering liberal education. The Oxford University Delegacy conducted experimental programs in liberal education in 1946. As regards the promotion of Nigerian culture, the department played the role of fostering relationship and parentship to cultural associations like the Mbari Club at Ife and Oshogbo with Uli. The club should be commended for its creative art through its Artists and Writers Club. In fact, most of the international award winners and Nobel Prize winners were offshoots of Mbari Club. The University College did not neglect sculptors, artists and dramatists. It also promoted feature films, which promoted the cultural image of Nigeria internationally. Activities for this included sponsoring of International Film Festival by the department. Robert Gardiner, Director of Extramural Studies, in October 1949, organized the training of adults on civic duties in sympathy with Oxford Delegacy to help Africans solve the tremendous problems of political and physical, moral national construction rather than prepare adults for examination. The Workers' Educational Association also used liberal education to foster the development of intellect among its inmates by extending the university teaching and by developing efficient school continuing system. Only the human and liberal studies alone formed the curriculum, as the aim was not for securing a job, but for unpaid social service to the community if self-government is to be realized. The political development through liberal education should also be examined with its awareness. It was due to this that the West African National Conference Discussion Group, the World Affairs Group, and the Universal Negro Movement Association were founded to discuss Pan-Africanism and other political philosophies. Various organizations and individuals also sprang up. For instance, Ernest Ikoli used his paper, Lagos Weekly Record, to teach the philosophy of Garvey, Booker, and other famous Negro leaders. The Zikist movement also organized opposition against the controversial Richard's Constitution of 1946 to 1947. In 1973, the publisher of Onibonji launched series of books on Nigerian history, arts, and culture with the declaration that reading is a form of cultural action, but very few Nigerians responded to the call. In the north, the University on the Air launched at Ahmadu Bello University of Zaria in 1972 does a special TV course run by the General Extension Services Units for teachers training colleges with the aim of disseminating teaching aids and instruction in hygiene. In conclusion, as a form of continuing education for workers, liberal education can assume the position of in-service training, whereby the workers attend various non-certificate-oriented organized workshops to improve their skills. Liberal education can even be related to the tradition of the Workers' Education Association theory that knowledge is power, as workers under the study could improve their ability to understand and influence policies of those in power as a vital step towards securing power. The contributions of liberal education to development. In this session, the introduction for courses through University College Ibadan, Department of Extramural Studies by the British government, and the dissemination of knowledge and the creation of an informal public opinion will be discussed. The introduced courses helped in the development of cultural interest, with the aim of opening the mind of those who had the opportunity of receiving Western education. Examples of such organized seminars and conferences include Nigeria on the Eve of Independence and Facing Independence. Dr. E. Awa talked on Nigeria's foreign policy, S.O. Adebo on regional budget, Lambo T.A. on mental health and community development. Dr. Tai Solarin spoke on Towards a Welfare State in Nigeria, while Dr. now Professor S.O. Aluku delivered a paper on the economic development of Nigeria. The liberal education of Oxford helped in the fulfillment of Asquith and Eliot Commission wishes as regards the roles of university in colonial and underdeveloped countries. Since the proposed university would only benefit the youth, the adult learners would find solace in liberal education to improve their lives and develop more cognition and intelligence. This would present a situation whereby the university graduates would constitute a separate colony. To achieve this fully, the Asquith Commission set up extramural centers in large urban and industrialization localities. The objectives of this was to forge relationship between university and populace as University College like Nottingham and Sheffield evolved from adult education centers like this, howbeit helping the University College Ibadan to fulfill the role of socialization of late adolescents and young adults and teach them how to fit into the social roles they will find as adults. Liberal education also helped in closing the wide gap between youth and adults as age is no more a barrier, and lifelong education is now popular and discussed in UNESCO conferences on adult education. This led to its development, which was formerly taken care of by the Department of Education, which promoted it through apprenticeship and training. The negative aspects could be seen in the sense that the liberal education was partially successful in the cities. For instance, by 1963, the World Affairs Group had packed up, while the university evening classes turned to only a consulting center for the evaluation of examinations before its final demise in 1950. The University of Ibadan Department of Education continued to promote liberal education through the organization of symposiums, seminars, conferences, workshops on national and international issues, but had modified its program to examination-oriented diplomas, certificates, and degrees. As for future directions, liberal education can be used to assist the Nigerian citizens who need to broaden their outlook of life. It can be used to generate and encourage critical thinking and to encourage knowledge, languages, literature, sociology, simple economics can be brought in as part of the course of liberal education. History is particularly useful. Omolewa 1981. Evening schools could also serve this purpose as regards bringing adults of various ethnic groups together. It could as well be extended to international level as enabling Nigerians to meet other Africans. The liberal education forms in Sierra Leone helped in the promotion of professional advancement and knowledge of general kind. The position of liberal education in colonial Nigeria helped in a long way in fostering economic, social, leisure education, cultural and national awareness, and most of all political development, which led to self-governance in most African countries. All this was not without bias and shortcomings, but its success could be seen in the sense that many Africans still receive basic education in painting, literature, drumming, music, dance through homes, clubs, and informal centers provided these services. Study session summary. In this study session, we attempted a description of what liberal education means and the various efforts made in Africa to plant a liberal education tradition. We also highlighted and explained in details the earliest forms of liberal education and its contribution to development. And lastly, we noted the future use of liberal education in the contemporary African society. End of study session 11.